Ride or die.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint.
Ride or die.
Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't.
Ride or die.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint.
Ride or die.
Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't. They see the red and they call me a devil, but mind the treble, let me level with you. I used to idolize rappers that paint they face, but now I rock the blood of Christ ever since I've been saved by grace.
All right, James is our next guest. What's going on, James?
It's going well. I appreciate you plugging that conversation I hosted on my channel just before.
Yeah, that was on James's channel.
Nice. I like how you snuck that in. That way I wouldn't be so tired and cranky.
I think you're tired anyway. I read it says James is tired.
Yep. So I had a question, but I wanted to throw out just a response to the Rebekahs passages. It assumes that 3 events happened simultaneously, which is bad hermeneutics and a bad assumption. But I do get why you as a Muslim would want to throw that at a Christian, because they're bringing up a moral issue at you, and I don't know if morality is the best way that religion should be going after each other. Because if let's say my conception of God is right or your conception of God is right, it doesn't really matter, because that conception of God set the moral standard. And so even if like God was ordering people's heads chopped off, which I don't think either of us would say our gods do it.
Easy there, guy. Easy.
We'd be a front to God.
Let's not bring Amulek into this, all right?
So my question for you is, I've talked a lot about the Hadith, and I'm trying to learn the science of it, which is very, very complex. One of the objections this gentleman in our chat, young Muhammad, brought up to me was that if you say that Aisha was not accurately able to account for her age, and there's several narrations where she describes her being either 6 and 9, one where she says, I think 7 and 9. So the argument is, if she wasn't able to remember that, how can you still state with confidence that she had a good memory?
Excellent. Easy question. And I answered this earlier in the show, but I'll answer it again. So when we talk about an authentic hadith, what are we authenticating? That the person said what they said at that time, right? Meaning, right now, James, if I told you that I'm 40, right, for example, right? And you were asked of my age, and you said, Uthman said he's 40, right? What you said is correct. Maybe I was looking at dog years, or I was looking at it incorrectly myself, but you're reporting what I told you was correct, right? So that is not a criticism of James. It would be a criticism of Uthman, right? Yes? No? Maybe?
Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt. I tried to.
No. I want to keep this, interactive. I like there to be interaction, right? So when you look at yourself, James, and I'm not going to ask you your age again. I don't want to, shock the people that you look so young and so on. So if I ask you your age, how would you tell me how old you are? Right? You would either look at your passport or a birth certificate, or ask your mom or dad or grandfather or older brother or so on, because you were not conscious at the time of your birth to be able to record the age. Right?
So,
but
so what you would say is that, if I understand right, you're saying that she had a good memory, but she had no idea how old she was.
No, I did not say that. No.
The only reason why I say that is because if it says that her sister was this much older than her at death, then they had to have known their ages to a degree. So if they didn't even know the birth, how can we say the rest?
As I said, even the age of Asma, radiallahu anha, the older sister, is hotly debated, because these things were not important to the Arab at the time. They had no calendars. They had no, other than naming years after events, they had no way to count for years, right? Because we are looking at this from a perspective of saying, okay, 2021 and 2020 and 1980 and 1998. But imagine if we had no numbering system, right? If we had nothing like that, and the Arab didn't. So you would be relying upon whatever somebody told you. there is no way that she had no idea how old she was. But there is also a clear possibility, as the scholars have discussed in the past, that she was not exact about her age because she was not physically aware at the time of birth of what age it would be, right? As you were not, and as I was not. When I need to know my age, I ask somebody, right? I'll give you an example. Um, my name is Uthman. Who named me? Right? My grandmother told me I named you. My mother told me I named you. My father told me I named you. Right? So me, I cannot go back and say which one of them named me because I was not in my senses, right? So if I say my grandmother named me because she's the one that told me that, and it turns out that my father named me, it would be not a criticism of me because I was only going by what somebody had told me, right? So if she was told that you are about this age of age and she conveyed that, and let's say it turned out that she wasn't, it is not a criticism of her. Everything that she saw and she heard and she reported, she did accurately.
Okay. No, I understand that point. Now, when I'm looking though at the argument to make her older, if we're establishing that people really, in several cases, didn't have ideas of how old they are, I still think that you're not able to make an argument that she was 19. Your argument is really that people had no idea how old they were.
I'm not making the argument that she was 19, right? I am presenting that there is a scholarly view, and I've given the names of those scholars, and based on historic events that happened during her lifetime and other people around her age that gave those arguments as well. Now, personally, like I said, I think the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim are the strongest. Chain-wise, no doubt to their strength to it, right? But again, this is not a creedal matter. This is not a moral matter. This is an issue of just putting dates together. She was at an age that was acceptable at the time, that they waited for the marriage to consummate, for her to be physically and emotionally ready as the people of that time were. Now, if you ask me what was her exact age, 6 or 7 at the time of engagement, not marriage, or 9 and so on at the time of marriage, or as other scholars have said, 14 years of age around at the time of engagement and 17 to 18 at the time of marriage, I would say, well, there's evidences this way, which is the ayah of Aisha radiallahu anha, and there are evidences the other way, like the historic events that she could not have reported at that age regarding the ayat or certain tafsir and so on, like the issue of the pills and so on. So I would present those arguments. I don't need to make her older or younger. Right? Doesn't really matter. To me, whatever age she was acceptable in natural state of a body being ready, of haid and menses and physically, and a mental state and a cultural societal state. So I'm perfectly fine. But what I do like to do is to present some of the views of other scholars and some of the historical background regarding the age of Rebekah, for example. When I gave those references, when you get some time, just look them up. It's not about simultaneously. If you're
I'm
90 at the time,
I've heard
yeah.
that.
So have you read
before.
the commentary of Rashi, for example?
I don't know exactly who else commentary, but I've read a lot. But the traditional narrative is you have to assume that Genesis 22 and Genesis 23 ran right into each other, and that all three events happened at the same time. Problem with that, though, is that
hold on. I just want to understand that. So when we look at Sarah being 90 when Abraham was 100, that does not affect and her dying at 127. That's the same person's timeline. And Isaac being born is going to be the same. It's not like we're taking two different timelines. We're just trying to figure out ages by the births and deaths of people that are all interrelated, right? And that's why this is not from a Muslim source. This is not like some Muslim went. And if you get the time, look at the Jewish sources.
From a rabbinical source. I've definitely read it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they look at it, they put it together from a singular timeline, meaning they put together one timeline. Look at Rebekah. They look at the Rebekah's birth and the marriage and death of Sarah and Abraham and Isaac. Straight down the line, and I've got a graph.
So
maybe if you want,
put together a timeline. What it does is, and simplebible.com has a great article on it, and it'll actually go people step by step. But what it does is it takes three events and it sandwiches them together, and it assumes that all three events happen back to back and almost simultaneously. But you can't do that. That's
I
bad.
don't see how that. So let me just. I mean, instead of going to a website, let me take it down. Okay, so when she was 90, when Abraham was 100, Genesis 17:17. Is that correct?
Yeah. Then Abraham was 100, Genesis 21:5.
Okay, excellent. Sarah died at 127. Is that something that's sandwich? And that's the timeline, right?
I apologize. Somebody tried to call me in the middle of that, probably to ask me why I'm on. So Sarah died at the age of 127, Genesis 23, 1 through 2.
Isaac was born at 40. I was 40
Genesis
when
25,
he married.
20.
Excellent. Sarah was 90 when Isaac was born. So then Sarah being 90 at the birth of Isaac, this is all singular timeline, right? Isaac was 37 when his mother died, right? Singular timeline going. I mean, there's not different events. If you take 37,
that's because, but look, if you look right there, it goes right where I was saying. You have to assume that Genesis 22 and Genesis 23 were saying that they were the same report at the same time.
I don't understand that, because Isaac
this
is a
website
son of Sarah, right?
A lot of good.
Forget websites. Me and you can have this conversation right now. So if Isaac is a son of Sarah, and Isaac was 37 when his mother died, and his mother's age is given, her Rebekah being born, Isaac being 40 when Rebekah was born. So that is the same timeline. So if Rebekah is born
23, sorry, Genesis 22:23, it's the betrothal begotten Rebekah. It's not part of the news that Abraham received. So when you look at that, if you combine those two, then you get that she was 3.
We're looking at Genesis 25:20.
Well, no, I'm explaining to you how they put this together.
No, I mean, I'm looking at the verses I've marked here, right? So Isaac was 40 when he married Rebekah. That's 25:20, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you from the website and the scholars that I'm pulling up.
Forget websites. We're looking at actual verses, though.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing.
Isaac being 37.
You can appreciate this as being a Muslim. I can read the Quran, but if I don't have the context or the Hadith or the Sunnah,
So if you can
James,
bring me,
don't just read Surah 9.
I'm with you, James. Read Surah 9, no problem. I will bring you the Hadith as an actual historic context of it. No problem with that. But if there is a timeline given, and it gives clear lyrics, then in the Quran, for example, bring it to me. I have no problem. I will not answer you just with websites. I will give you actual evidences from the Quran itself, or from Sahih, authentic narrations for people that were there when those ayat were revealed. For example, Surah 9, right? When we talk about the context of battles, right? We can give you Asbab al-Nuzul, which is that this was during the aspects of this battle. How do we know that? We not just that I make that up. We will tell you this companion who was there when these verses were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, explain that with chains of narrations you can verify, right? So in the same way, if you can give us textual evidence, sure. But I mean, websites will try to spin things. I looked at this not from a Muslim perspective originally, looking at rabbinic writings of Jewish scholars who were experts in the Old Testament, and I made a graph myself. I wrote it all out.
Well, the problem with that is, even from your theological perspective, you don't believe that those scriptures are valid or that the history was preserved.
Sure.
So,
but that's not the point, right?
You're looking back at a mess and you're saying that I'm going to make this argument from what I believe is a mess.
Not at all. The point is, if somebody's coming from a Christian perspective, then they believe that this is the words of God. This is the Bible.
It's an internal critique.
So, well, no, it's not an internal critique, because I told him that 3 events were smashed together, and he's trying to force the text to read straight through.
I'm trying to understand how you come with that when you look at it.
Okay. But when I mentioned to you when the betrothal was, and I give you that scripture, you still want to take back to the 3 that are smashed.
I didn't even bring up that scriptures. I mean, I'm giving you the dates from the scriptures that I brought up, right?
Well, no, the events, how they're all smashed together, and then I read for you.
So let me
pull it up again.
let me read down the chain, and then you tell me where they're not related. Okay. So Sarah was 90 when Abraham was 100. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can go through, and actually, I will take this link and I will shoot it into the chat so everyone else can. And I don't want to keep up all your time because I know there are other people back here. I do enjoy the spirited back and forth.
Great. I mean, anytime you want, come to San Diego. We'll discuss it at the park. No problem.
Justin knows me. We live in Ohio, not to dox each other, but I'm not traveling.
Oh,
James not a vacation guy.
San Diego's got a beautiful beach.
We'll get you some sweet corn.
I love sweet corn. We'll do it. What you guys? You guys don't have sweet tea though, right? That's more in the south, right?
Oh, no, we have sweet tea.
We do.
I love sweet tea as well. So that's it, James. Me and you will get some sweet corn and some sweet tea, maybe some cornbread, and have a great old time looking at the scripture together.
Yeah, but like I said, I'll definitely let someone else come on now because I think we could unpack this for probably the next 30 minutes, and I don't want to take all the time. But
no problem. I gave the textual references. Whoever wants can actually get a Bible and just draw them like I did. I just drew out the graph that matches up the ages, and they can look at it themselves.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, thank you so much, James, for coming on.
Appreciate
Once again, everybody, go visit James's Tired's channel. He's had Apostate Prophet on. He's had Aaron Ra on. He's had Matt Dillahunty on in the recent past. He's had me on. I mean, the most important. So go ahead and visit his channel. Show him some love.
Apostate Prophet, Justin.
Yeah,
you are a brave man because a lot of people won't do that.
That's some of the people in my close group that I speak with. They say that I'm scrappy dude because I'm the little brand new Muslim that's like, I'll fight anybody, just bring them on, bring them here. But yeah, James, I appreciate you coming on, and I thank you for what you do. I thank you for being polite and respectful. Hopefully, some people in the chat, some non-Muslims in the chat, can take after you. I appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to that sweet corn.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint.
Right or right.
Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't.
Right or right.